Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Art and Recap. I'm your artist Faye, and today we are reading chapter 147 till 151 of Lord of the Mysteries. Chapter 147 is called Night Visitor, and wink wink, we kinda know what's going on here, right? Not the pervy part, it's not pervy, I swear to God. I saw the chapter title and I was like, oh, it's that scene, right? The same scene that happens in the Donghua. But anyway, before that scene, the one where he meets Dali, we actually find ourselves at the private investigator's office, which we did not see at all in the Donghua. Like, we have no idea that Klein even went to the private investigator in the Donghua. Because he's just, it's just never mentioned at all. So Detective Henry looks over at Klein and is like, "Sir, this is your request. It has been completed." And in front of them is like this thick stack of papers. And Detective Henry then moans to Klein and was like, "Dude, this assignment you gave us was so difficult. I wish I didn't take it for so cheaply because again, Klein only paid a certain amount, right? And he did not and he did not expect to use this much manpower and energy to find out all of the freaking red chimneys that the buildings have in Tingen, right? And also, it has to be marked and also written out what happens in the past 3 months before then. So it is a lot of information, and he did not expect it to be so time consuming, which I bet. But at the same time, you live in Tingen. You should have known there are at least like more than 500 houses, at least in Tingen alone, that has these red fucking chimneys, which is why again Klein went to you guys. So he should have actually had someone scout the Tingen area before he gave Klein an actual quote of how much the investigation would cost, right? But now he just gave Klein somewhat of a flat fee. So that's his own fault, man. It's not Klein's fault. You guys signed the contract together. And so he was moaning about that, and Klein was thinking, I am not paying a single penny more, dude. So Klein just grabs the stacks of document on the coffee table and is like, "Is this the investigation report?" And Detective Henry's like, "Yes." And then he wants to go on about how it took a while for them to figure out all of these chimneys. And Klein, he did not wait for him to finish. He just was like, "Yep." And then he gave him the money that he left, that are left over that he had to pay, right? And then Klein left. And Detective Henry, before Klein left, Detective Henry was like, "You sure are a man that keeps his words." I had to laugh about that because I was like, how is Detective Henry going to handle this kind of situation of someone who just gives him exactly the amount that he needed? And yeah, this is certainly it. So Klein was like, "Okay, I'm gonna go now, peace out." And before that, Henry was like, this amount of money is like, there we used up so much paper." And Klein's like, "The fuck, you want me to pay for the paper too?" But of course Klein did not say that. He was saying it in his head, right? So anyway, Klein left and went out to search for a a coffee shop. Sorry, my mind was like buffering for a minute there. I was like, how do you call a coffee shop? Because in my mind I was like thinking cafe. That's not the English word for it. Yeah, so yes, so Klein was searching for a coffee shop, and we find out that the coffee shops nowadays, they are more, how do I say this? It's not really a coffee shop in a sense that people can relax. It's kind of like a mix of a diner and a bar. So a lot of upper class people don't go there anymore. It used to be a luxurious place, but it's explained in the book that now it's not like that anymore. But at least Klein found one that met his expectations, so he went there and started reading the documents. Once he opened the document, we find out that there are around 1,179 buildings with a dark red chimney in Tingen. But at the outskirts of Tingen, there's 546 buildings, and this doesn't include the buildings and towns or villages that are farther away but still fall under Tingen's jurisdiction. So overall, he has to search at around 1,600 chimneys, buildings for that fucking chimney, right? So it's like, god damn, that's a lot of addresses. And then he looked through the document some more and marked down which ones actually has, um a, a change in tenants, and he found out that 25 of those 1600, they changed tenants within 3 months. So he's like, okay, let's start with that and hope for the best that we actually find that the guy, the mastermind, left the building, and that one of these buildings is the building he was hiding at, right? So he was hoping for the best, right? Think positively. So it's like, okay, I will divide the search, basically, is what he's saying. He will search for the. He will start searching for the 15 buildings first, and then the next day he will also search for the 15 buildings. What am I saying? But you guys know what I mean, right? So he closed the documents and hired a carriage and started driving around Tingen, looking at the buildings. That was, one of the 25. So after looking at them all, he realized, like the 15, he realized that none of them was the building he's searching for, because he would know what to look for thanks to his spiritual senses, right? So he's like, okay, none of this building is it, so I guess I will have to check out the other 15, the leftover, actually the other 10, because he searched for 15 already and there's only 25, right? So I will look at the other 10 buildings tomorrow and hope for the best again. Yeah. And he is also hoping that the building, the person who replaced the new tenants, that they would remember who actually was in that building, right? And yeah, so that he has more clues to search for the mastermind. So after all of that, he actually went back home to Daffodil Street and had a nice evening with his siblings. Before Klein went to sleep, he was visited by the spirit of Christmas past for being such a Scrooge to Detective Henry earlier. No, I'm kidding. He was actually visited by the ghost minion of Miss Dolly. And Klein was, of course, surprised because he was not expecting Miss Dolly at all. Especially not in this kind of form. He was like, who the hell is this? He was about to shoot the spirit because he has his revolver under his mattress, not mattress, under his pillow, and was like, who the fuck is this? And Miss Dally is like, whoa, 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 dude, wait a minute, don't shoot, it's me, Miss Dally. Of course, Klein wasn't believing that at first because he thought that this spirit is kind of suspicious, right? And he's like, how do I know you're Miss Dolly? Because the spirit, the voice is different. First and foremost, it looks terrifying. Secondly, and yeah, he's just like, there is absolutely no resemblance to Miss Dolly at all, which is very different from the Donghua. On the Donghua, it says that the Donghua showed us that Miss Dolly was actually, very much visible through that spirit. Like you can recognize that it was her. But in the novel, it actually says that the spirit has like no eyes and like barely a mouth. Like it looks terrifying, like the description. So I understand why Klein wanted to shoot it instantly, because it's just like super suspicious that this random spirit just visited him out of nowhere. So yeah, I would also be suspicious and terrified. So it's like, okay, how do I know this is Miss Dolly? Because Miss Dolly was supposed to be at the Backlund, that yeah, she's supposed to be at Backlund. And Dali's like, yeah, well, Dune actually messaged me. He wrote me a letter about, you dropping hints at him. But yeah, I was a little bit, worried, and I kind of figured that you know about the acting method. And Klein actually recognized Miss Dolly for who she was because of her manner of speech. And so they had a chat. Miss Dolly explained to him about, the whole shenanigan thing about the acting method and how she's trying to explain to Dunes about it, but at the same time not pointing it out. Yeah. And Klein, she's like, oh, you are a genius, like me, basically. And yeah, they had a small chat, and uh Klein was like, yes, that's because you are my role model. And he actually did not want to tell her that it was because he read Roselle's diary, or he had any idea about, Roselle, that it was inspired by Roselle or whatever, because he did not want to give Roselle any credit. Yeah, basically that was this chapter. Chapter 148 is called The Messenger. So Klein and Dolly are still talking about, the acting method and this and that. And Klein is like, Miss Dolly, Madame Dolly, do the higher ups in the church actually know about this thing called the acting method? And she's like, yeah, I have no doubt that they know. But because she searched through the stories of people that ignored the norms and advanced quickly. And yeah, she's like, there are a lot of them, and they have some quite unique endings. And Klein's like, oh no, what happened? And she's like, oh, their endings were rather great. Besides the few that lost control and were sacrificed, but most of the time becoming they were they were becoming they became archbishops, high-ranking deacons like her. And we also find out that sequences 4 and sequences 3 in the Evernight Goddess Church are called saints, and sequences 2 and sequences 1 are called grounded angels, which is an interesting title, to say the least. So yeah, so Klein's like, oh my god, she scared me to death, because what the fuck? What if the church would actually hunt us down because we knew of the acting method? That was like the thought Klein had. So he's rather happy that that's not the case. So then Klein asked her, if the church knew about the acting method, why didn't they tell everybody in the Nighthawk? That's just so suspicious, right? And Dolly's like, I know, right? That's super sus, but I also don't know why. But if she gets promoted high enough, she's going to find out the secret, and she can, drop hints about it to him. And since he's a smart cookie, he can figure it out himself, right? And Klein's like, wait, does this mean that you cannot tell people about the acting method yourself? And she actually admits that she didn't know exactly what the acting method was before she swore in front of the goddess as holy items not to tell anyone about the acting method. So that was why she was just dropping some subtle hints towards Dunes and the rest, and they never really picked up on her hints at all. So that is something that she regrets, and she was like, I almost gave up, but then you popped up, Klein Moretti. You know about the acting method, and you aren't sworn to the church yet, so you can tell them. So anyway, Dali is like, okay, so you can go and write me letters if you have any questions. I will happily answer them. And Klein's like, oh, that's awesome. What's your address? And Dali's like, oh my god, oh no, 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 no. We are not going through this information through the post office. This is very sensitive information, Klein. I'm going to teach you a way to summon a special type of spirit so that this spirit can pass the letter on to me. So it's kind of like they're DMing each other, you know what I mean? And Klein's like, oh, yeah, I would love to learn that ritualistic magic. So Dali teaches him about this ritualistic magic and how it's like evokes some sort of spirit. He needs to, call forth a name, his own name, I think. Wait, was it? Yeah, something like that. And while he's listening to this, he was thinking, can I actually use this to summon the fool? Like, what would happen if I actually evoke the name of the fool? Would the fool descend himself? Like, how is that going to happen? Because he is the fool, right? He was thinking of experimenting, but then he's like, I should probably not go through this so soon, because of what happened with the sun emblem. He got fried by the god. So he's like, let's not risk it right now, and wait a minute. I'm going to divine if it's safe or not. And yeah, Klein then asked her how long it would take for someone to go from sequence 8 to sequence 7 and from sequence 7 to sequence 6 if they're only practicing the acting method. And Dali is like, well, it varies from person to person, of course. It could be from 3 3 months to 2 years for sequence 8 to sequence 7, and maybe half a year to 3 years for sequence 7 to sequence 6. So Klein gave a smile and was like, Miss Dali, are you actually at sequence 6? And Dali's like, yes, actually I am. This is actually the reason why she got transferred to the Backlund Digest. And her current occupation title is actually a spirit guide, but she prefers the name spirit medium more because it's much cooler. Dolly then says that the spirit that she summoned is getting tired, and this is where she ends their conversation. So they said their good nights and she left. And Klein was like, he is kind of eager to test out if, the name, if he can summon the fool, right? What will happen with that? But at the same time, he's like, I don't want to risk Miss Dolly coming back like Captain Dunes and saying, oh yeah, I forgot one thing. So he's just like, I'm going to do that some other time, okay? So yeah, then he went to sleep. The next day, Klein heads over to work and was greeted with a super happy Roseanne because apparently the new clerks are here, and she's just ecstatic that she's finally gonna be able to sleep and her skin is gonna clear up again. So Klein's like, that's great, good for you, Roseanne. And then he went over to Captain Dune's office and was like, Captain Dunes, I would like to have a small chat with you. And Captain's like, sure. Whatever do you want to talk about, Klein Moretti? Anyway, that is how chapter 148 ends. Chapter 149 is called Direct Hint. So Klein looks at Captain Dunes and is like, Captain, I understood something yesterday. And then he explains how he realized that the sequence names of the potions are very important to the job that they have, and that they should be doing things according to these set principles, and that he kind of figured that out once he became a real seer at the divination club, yada yada yada. And he was thinking, you know what, he was thinking that he is hoping that the captain will actually figure out what he's trying to say without him having to say the acting method directly, because he's hoping that the captain is smart enough for that, and also that the captain doesn't actually tell the church about this, because then once the captain realizes the acting method and how the church knew about it, he will also realize that the church is sus, because the church is hiding something from them, because why didn't the church tell them about the acting method from the very beginning, right? So Klein was hoping all of that, and he's like, well, if the captain still doesn't understand what I'm trying to say, I am just going to tell him about it, like, straight up, just directly, And when he said that, he thought that I was like, Klein, why don't you do that from the very beginning, bro? Just say it directly. Why are you giving hints like this? Just tell it to the man. He's been struggling for years, Klein. So yeah, Captain then lights up his pipe and just started sniffing the smoke. And when he looks up, he apologizes to Klein because, Klein doesn't smoke. And Klein is like, smoking is bad for your health, Captain. This is a PSA from Klein Moretti, guys. Smoking is bad for your health. That also includes vaping. Guys, don't vape. I swear. I know the Gen Zs and younger, they like to vape. But first of all, guys, it looks ridiculous. Just gonna say this. There was actually someone who said, I saw it on TikTok or Twitter. I don't know. They were saying that vaping is as bad for your health as, smoking a cigarette is, and it doesn't even look cool because you're holding this giant ass USB stick in your hand and just smoking a huge puff of cloud around you. Like, yeah, it might smell good, but it's not good for your health, and it also doesn't look cool. You guys lose a lot of aura points if you're vaping. You know. Yeah. that sorry guys, that was like a small rant. I am actually a lot really worried about my little sister's smoking, vaping, because it's very addictive. It's very addictive. So I told her, girl, stop that. But of course, she's my little sister. She doesn't ever listen to me. But whatever. Do what you guys want. It's your life, your rules. It's not my health that's being damaged or my lungs. Because let's face it, I am as unhealthy as anyone here. I am an artist who works 24/7 at my desk. My back is shaped like a shrimp, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, let's just enjoy life as we do it. Whatever. Fuck health, right? So Captain Dunes is like, I seem to have understood something too. And Klein's like, do you really? Klein, of course, didn't speak that. He was actually thinking, no, Captain, you don't understand anything. Just don't loiter in my dreams too often, please. And when he was thinking that, I was thinking, what would happen if Klein was actually having a wet dream and the Captain just randomly pops up? Like, that would be hella fucking awkward, Also, that sounds like an actual nightmare. Imagine you're going to freaky town with someone in your dreams and then suddenly your boss pops up. I'd be fucking terrified. That is a nightmare. Ew. Yeah. Yeah, so Captain is like, perhaps it won't be too long before you submit a special application to me. Of course, he was only half joking, but Klein was thinking in his head, like, perhaps I will submit it tomorrow, Captain. So Klein's like, well, Captain, I love chatting with you, but I have to actually be at old Neil's right now for his mysticism lessons. And Klein's like, Captain Dune is like, oh, right. And then Klein left and headed towards to old Neil's class, of course. And he passed by two strangers, a male and a female, and he deduced that those are the two new clerks. And I was like, I don't know why, it just feels like it's super sus to me that the cuttlefish would add these two clerks randomly, first and foremost. And also at the same time, I am a little bit disappointed that not one of them is actually Bitch McBatten. Because, again, the name. Best name ever. So yeah, Klein goes to class. And he finds out that old Neil is looking very dispirited, and it's like, oh my god, what happened to you? And old Neil is like, bruh, I've been a little bit constipated lately, and I tried ritualistic magic to solve my problems last night, and well, in the end, I didn't get any sleep at all. I had to be at the bathroom 24/7 because I have diarrhea. That's basically what he said. And Clive's like, well, at least that solved the constipation problems. And I was thinking, old Neil, if you have constipation, just eat a lot more fiber. I think that would help a lot better than actually bothering the goddess that you're constipated. Imagine actually being the Evernight goddess and this old Neil, this old dude just starts praying to you because he's constipated. I'd be like, bro, what the fuck? Punishment! And the punishment is diarrhea. But it solved the problem, right? Yeah. Old Neil told him that today's lesson is going to be a self-study lesson, and Klein's like, oh, sure, okay, you look really, really bad today. Do you want to take a break? Like, I can take care of the armory for you while I study here. And old Neil was like, oh, Klein, you are so kind. And then he rushed out to, rest. And we actually have a small mention of Leonard here. I was like, Leonard! Apparently, he and Kenley just completed a mission escorting a rich merchant to the harbor for a deal, and Klein was a little bit jealous because that means that they had extra pay from that. And it's like, I would really like to have some of those money, you know. So anyway, after doing his schedule, going to Gawain for training, he actually had his free time finally, and he started investigating the 10 houses with the red chimneys that were left over from his last investigation. And he realized that none of those houses were the houses that he was searching for. So he's like, fuck. Well, that means he has to search and figure out which house it is in those 1,600 houses that are left over, that occupied. And he also realized that this means that the puppet master, the manipulator, that he actually is either very confident about his skills that the Nighthawks are not going to find him, or that even if they do find him, he's powerful enough to thwart them, basically. And one thing that he also realized is, if that's not the case, that would mean that whatever power that guy had that stopped Klein from being able to divine him was actually not through his own powers, but because of something else. So Klein's like, sus. Before he headed back home, he actually realized that he was in Mr. Azik's neighborhood, and he's like, oh, you know what? How about I drop by Mr. Azik and drop him a letter saying, about the Lamed stuff, because he's already in the neighborhood. And he's like, well, if Mr. Azik is not here yet from his vacation, yeah, he's just gonna drop a letter. So he goes to Mr. Azik's house because, again, he still has a lot of time left from the carriage that he rented. So he's like, might as well. So once he actually rang the doorbell of Mr. Azik's house, he finds out that the man was actually back home from vacation. He just came back the previous night, and Mr. Azik's like, oh, Klein, come in. How about some tea, And Klein, of course, accepted and was like, Mr. Azik, I kind of have a clue about your past. And he tells him about what happened at the Lamed town, about the wraith, this and that. And Azik's like, Lamed. And of course, Klein told him about the portrait, right? And Mr. Azik was like, perhaps I should visit the abandoned castle myself. Can you take me there? And Klein's like, oh yeah, of course, that would be my honor. But first, we actually need to go to my house. I need to tell my siblings that I won't be home tonight, or I will be home late, because he just doesn't want them to worry, So he's like, oh yeah, no problem. So that is how chapter 148, I think, ends. Well, wait, it's 149. Chapter 150 is called Azik's Discovery. So Klein is at home. He greets Melissa, who was there. She just came back from grocery shopping, and she was super excited to see Klein. And Klein's like, little sis, you'll have to prepare dinner tonight because I'll be out of town. I'm doing Mr. Azik a small favor. And Melissa's like, oh, okay, alright. I'll see you tomorrow, I guess. So Klein and Mr. Azik heads off to Lamed town, and at Lamed town they arrived at the ancient castle. I'm just gonna gloss over about the stuff that their way there, because it's really nothing really happened, actually, is what I'm trying to say here. So anyway, they head to the ancient castle. It's super creepy. It's dark, creepy, yada yada yada. And Mr. Azik looked at the ancient castle and slowed down his steps and was like, ugh, my head. Like an anime character. Ugh, my head. He was groaning in pain, and Klein's like, oh my god, Mr. Azik, are you okay? And then he activated his spirit vision to see what's going on with him. And Mr. Azik is basically having a flashback, right? A war flashback, and he explains that the ancient castle, he's seen it in his dream before, but of course, in his dreams, it wasn't as dilapidated. Also, we find out actually that I was going to say this. That this is a lot different from what we've seen in the Donghua, because in the Donghua, Klein actually saw some creepy ass drawing of the castle on Mr. Azik's wall, right? Because Mr. Azik was drawing it with his blood, and that was why he was so sus. And in here, it's actually not the case. Mr. Azik really seems a lot more sympathetic and sad. He doesn't seem quite as evil as in the Donghua, because again in the Donghua, the way he was portrayed with like little hints of mysteries here and there, it just seems like people are trying to tell the viewer that he's low-key evil. But in the novel, not really that much of a case. He just seems very like, a sad guy who doesn't remember his past, right? Though I still think he might be a vampire, but that's just a personal thought. So Mr. Azik is like remembering all of this, and he's explaining to Klein that he has a son, and that son wanted to become a knight when he grows up, and that his wife was always complaining about how gloomy the castle was. And while Klein was listening to all of this, he's like, damn, Mr. Azik might actually be the first Baron of Blamud, actually, because what the fuck is that description? So he's thinking, so is Mr. Acid is Mr. Azik actually 1400 years old? Damn. He looked good. Of course, Klein didn't say that, but me personally, he looked good for an old raisin. Yeah. So Klein's like, is he human or an evil spirit? And I was like, well, he's a vampire. No, we don't know. I don't know if he's a vampire or not, but he just, again, vampire vibes. So the two of them heads inside the ancient castle, and they go to where the coffin was, the headless skeleton. And Klein found out that it's actually closed. The coffin is closed compared to when he found out about it the first time, which is slightly open. Apparently, it was because of Freya. It's part of his work ethic as a corpse collector. It's just, basic respect to the corpses, to the dead, basically. And I like that. Freya is turning out to be such a nice guy, even though he's like, he's like a super quiet, kind of dark, mysterious, kind of creepy guy, but he's actually very sweet and very thoughtful. So Mr. Azik, he opens the coffin and looks at the skeleton, the headless skeleton, and he just lurches backwards with heavy footsteps. And he's like, oh my god, he's having a flashback again, and he is leaning against the wall. And Klein, who has his spiritual perception, Klein's spiritual perception is telling him that Mr. Azik right now is very dangerous, that he should not be messing with him right now. So he's slowly inching closer to the stairs so that he can run away if Mr. Azik ever loses control. Because he does trust Mr. Azik's character, but he doesn't trust Mr. Azik if he loses control, because, what would happen then, right? So for his own safety, he's like, I better, skedaddle, have my path to, flee before he goes cray-cray. Okay, so then Mr. Azik is like, I have a feeling that I know who, not that he knows who fucked up with Klein's fate, but more like he is feeling some sort of connection to the person who fucked up Klein's fate and the person who stole his son's skull. So he's like, I think I can find out where he is. And Klein's like, oh, that's awesome. So Mr. Azik does his ritual thing with, biting his thumb, dripping the blood down to the skull, and the skull turning red. And creepy shit started happening, of course. Klein felt like he was being watched. He turned around. There was no one there. And then he looks back to Mr. Azik, and there's like spirits all around, basically, like creepy stuff basically happening. And he was also hearing a child crying. And I actually had to laugh at the sound effect because every time I read the sound effects of, I don't know, wailing or a child crying, and it just says, wow, 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 that's basically how my mind reads it. Like, wow, wow, wow. I don't know why. And it just pulls me out of the creepiness of the whole scene. So yeah, Klein drew his revolver just for safety's sake, and he just watches as Mr. Azik does his thing. And Mr. Azik later on says, like, I'm sorry, but I couldn't find him. And Klein's like, well, it's not really surprising, it's fine. Because, even he couldn't divine who the fuck is messing around with his life, right? So, Mr. Azik is like, I'll continue to investigate, so don't worry. But I do hope that I can have your assistance in the future about this. And Klein's like, oh, it's absolutely no problem. And he actually held back the urge to tell Mr. Azik about the red chimney because that's his own thing. And he is also wondering how, Klein was actually wondering before how he should involve the Nighthawks once he finds the red chimney, because he is not confident in himself that he can take out this mysterious and scary puppet master alone. But now that Mr. Azik is on his side, he can just ask Mr. Azik, and Mr. Azik seems like he's a very, very high level beyonder, right? So he's like, jackpot. On their way out of the creepy basement, Mr. Azik actually tells Klein that he's going to quit teaching. He's going to quit his job at Tingen and actually start looking for his lost past. And Klein is like, Mr. Azik, did you find out what happened to you? And yeah, that is how this chapter ends. Chapter 151 is called Klein's Request. So Mr. Azik tells Klein that he has a rough idea of what's going on with him, and that he is someone who's lived a very, very, very long time. And Klein's like, no shit, Sherlock. No, Klein of course wasn't that mean, but that's what he was thinking, obviously. And we find out that Mr. Azik has been alive since the end of the fourth epoch and has been just a wandering spirit. And Klein tells him that I have a theory regarding your situation. Like, he has a game theory. And so Klein explains to Mr. Azik his theory, basically that he is trapped in a cycle, basically, of memory loss. That perhaps he has to die every few decades, and that his memory resets, basically. It vanishes, and yada yada yada. And Azik is like, that is very consistent to the memories that were jolted awake just now. And when he mentioned that, Klein made another realization and was like, Mr. Azik, I don't think you have to leave Tingen. You actually will regain your memories slowly, is what he's thinking. And Mr. Azik like, wait, why do you think that? And Klein's like, well, your memories aren't completely gone. As you mentioned earlier, they were jolted awake. And this would mean, do you remember that when you woke up in Backlund, you have forgotten all about your past, but you had documentation of identification, enough money for when you wake up. And also, when you wake up, you didn't startle anyone. You weren't just randomly popped up somewhere. So this means that everything was arranged for you. And Mr. Asik's like, wait, but who made the arrangements? Mr. Azik in this chapter is asking a lot of dumb fucking questions, because I feel like they are very obvious. And I don't know, even if I'm not reading everything right now, and I was actually in Mr. Azik's shoes, I would kind of deduce myself that Klein is hinting that I actually arranged everything in my past life. So I don't know, he's kind of acting just stupid with all these questions. I'm sorry, Mr. Azik, but these are really fucking dumb questions. So Klein explains to him that basically his past self is the one that arranged everything for him. for his reincarnation and stuff like that. And Mr. Isaac's like, well, I guess the parent that I've been searching for was actually past me all along. Haha! That sounded very sarcastic, but I don't think he actually meant it to sound like that. I'm just being very mean. I'm tired, guys. So, so Klein is like, yes. So when your life is nearing your end, you're probably going to, get your memories back. And Mr. Isaac like, yeah, but I don't want to regain my memories back when my life is nearing its end. I want to figure out my life now. I don't want to wait. So he's like, I don't want to repeat the cycle anymore, basically. And kind of like, well, yeah, that's something that's very good idea, actually. So then Klein's like, Mr. Isaac, may I ask for your help in something very, very small? It's very trivial. And Mr. Isaac is like, yeah, sure, what do you want me to do? Klein then says to him that I hope that you can head to a town between 2 to 5 hours away from Tingen, maybe next week or the week after, and that you can cause a paranormal incident. Yeah, and that you actually only, target people from the Evernight Goddesses Church. That will be very, very helpful to me. And Azik is like, yeah, sure, no problem. No questions. No questions further asked. He's just like, sure, why the hell not? So Klein is like, yeah, this is a good way for me to actually get my hands on sealed artifact 30782, the flaring sun, the sun artifact, the one, the sun emblem thingy, so that he can create the flaring sun charms, because he needs some, tools that are super powerful if he ever wants to face the mastermind. So yeah, that's how he got the help from Mr. Asik, which is super different from what we had in the donghua, because in the donghua I really, really remember this. um Klein asked him for help when they were fishing under a bridge, and I was like, why were they fucking fishing under a bridge? Is that even legal? Because I was like, this is so random. Like, why are they under a bridge? Why are they fishing under a bridge and chatting about all this random beyond their shenanigans under a bridge? Like, that's gonna echo, guys. Come on. Anyway, so Klein gets back home and he is complaining a little bit to himself that Mr. Azik didn't treat him to dinner. But then he also understands that Mr. Azik probably wasn't in the mood to enjoy dinner anyway, but still, that would have been the polite thing to do because he hasn't eaten anything yet. But thankfully, Melissa actually left some food for him, which is really good because Melissa always like leaves food for him. That's very sweet of her. Anyway, he goes inside his house and he finds Benson on the sofa taking a nap basically, and Benson jolts awake and he's like, before he can actually speak to Klein, he was still yawning. Klein explains to him that he was actually out with Mr. Azik to Lamed Town. There was an abandoned castle there with a long history, and they are both history nerds. And Benson was like, oh yeah, that explains it. And he actually says, ahem, a moonless night, a castle abandoned for a millennia, a cold and creepy environment, coupled with a two-man archaeological team. This is the perfect recipe for the opening of a paranormal novel. And Klein is like, the shit that happened today was actually pretty scary. That can be classified as a paranormal incident, right? Because again, Mr. Azik summoned some really creepy fucking spirits, and there was a baby wailing in the back of his head for a while. So, yeah. So, Klein actually tells Benson that it did feel a little bit like that back there. Like, he actually said that. Because, again, it's very subtle enough that Benson wouldn't realize that Klein actually, like, that kind of stuff actually did happen to Klein, right? So, yeah. Klein then was like, oh, Benson, I need to tell you something. This is very top secret. Don't tell it to anyone. But basically, Benson, you know that my company has connections with the Awa police, right? And well, I heard from the grapevine, basically, that there will be an open examination from, the parliament. Basically, if you want to become a civil servant, this is a way to get there, basically. And then he's like, I am guessing that the examination that they will give out is actually going to be modeled after the entrance exams of the universities. So literature, the classics, math, and logic, as well as basic understanding of the law, that will be questioned in the exams. So Klein is basically hinting at him to start studying those stuff without, urging him to actually do it. So anyway, Benson is like, oh, damn, okay. That's really, really good to know. Thank you. I will study hard, and I won't tell people about that because again, it's confidential, right? So Klein was like, I'm very happy for you, Benson. And then he goes to the kitchen and eats the food that Melissa cooked, right? So then he goes up to his room after a very satisfying meal and decides to start the ritualistic magic to basically summon the fool that doesn't belong in this era. Well, he was going to divine first if it's dangerous or not, of course. But yeah, you guys know what I mean. And that is basically how chapter 151 ends. And is also when our video will end. I personally really like reading about Mr. Azik too because he is still a very mysterious man to me. Like I still don't know which beyonder path he's at. What his deal and why he's basically an immortal. Is he immortal because he's at such a high sequence? Is that it? But yeah. So we have 5 chapters and also, oh my god, guys, it's New Year's tomorrow when this video drops. Is going to be on December 30th, and then it's going to be New Year's in 2 days, and that is so exciting. I hope you guys will have a happy New Year. Have fun at Sylvester. Don't get too drunk. Don't get a hangover. Enjoy your life. Enjoy the fireworks, I guess. And yeah. Oh, a short thing about the artwork over here. Oh my god, this is an artwork that I still love to death. I was actually live streaming this. I was lucky enough to have the video for the live stream saved, which is not the case for a lot of the mermaid artworks that I did, like in 2024, like last year. Yeah. So that was a pity because some of those artworks I really, really adore, and I still love it to this day. And you know what? The saddest thing is I forgot how to paint like this. Like it pisses me off, guys. So actually watching the time lapse of all of this is also very helpful for me. So maybe in the future, next year, I will actually start drawing like this again. Hopefully, maybe. Yeah. Oh, one more thing. Next year I am going to plan to post some series reviews or series reaction, better yet, because I kind of miss doing them, but at the same time I don't have enough artwork footage for me to use. This is actually one of the last footages that I have. I haven't been drawing digitally for like weeks now because I've been busy painting traditionally for gifts of other people. And yeah, so what was I saying? Oh yeah, next year I am going to start doing some reaction videos of series. One of the series that I want to watch, it's going to be like a once a month drop, basically, video drop. It's going to be at least an hour long because again I am going to be reviewing the whole series. Well, not really reviewing, but more like reacting to the whole series as one. And I think this would be a lot better for me because again I will have enough time to watch the series and film my reactions and my thoughts, and also have enough time to edit everything without having to stress out about scheduling and stuff. Because again, I am also working on my story, my web novel slash webcomic. which is called Dreaming of Aurora. So yeah, that is the plan for next year. I want to actually react to Panty and Stocking season 2. I've been looking forward to that series for ages now. So that is definitely the first one I'm going to react to, and also Fiona and Cake, the season 2. I'm also very excited for that. So yeah, if you guys have any suggestions of any series that I should be reacting to in the future, leave it down in the comment section below. I would really like to watch some of your recommendations. Anyway, that's pretty much it for me. Oh yeah, my outro. I keep forgetting about my outro. Before I go, please leave a like, subscribe, and a comment. It helps my channel out a lot. My commissions are open and my Vision link is down in the description below. Check out my story Dreaming of Aurora if you have the time. And finally, thanks to my patrons, Robek, Vanarik, and J. Volchevolitska for the support. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!